Good morning. Good morning. What's going on, everybody? Thank you very much for tuning in. Tuesday, July 29th, getting the show started, of course, at 8 a.m. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Thank you for being here every morning. Thank you for making the show part of your rotation. I appreciate that. If you guys don't mind, please subscribe to the channel. Closing in on 33,000 subscribers. Would appreciate everybody that's been coming on here. If you guys can do that, would be fantastic. All right, we got a fun show planned out today. We got a lot going on. I don't have a guest today, but the rest of the week is going to be pretty packed with guests. So we'll get through everything. There's a number of different topics that I want to hit on. Of course, I'm going to read your guys' topics and or I'm going to read your guys' comments, and then we'll go from there. So thank you very much for being a part of the show. What do you got, everybody? Already good mornings everywhere. Top of the day, Sliwa. Morning, Big Sliwa. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, so give everyone a quick rundown of the show. Give everyone an idea what we're going to do today. We'll go an hour to. I'm going to have to take off right at 9, but we'll pack everything in. Don't worry. We'll pack it all in. Here's what we got going on for the show. There was a big piece yesterday as obviously a part of Men's Health, and it was Luka, and we talked about just the unbelievable shape that he's in. I want to spend a little time because I've been reading some things about Luka's motivation and, whether he got traded from Dallas or he didn't. This is what Luka was always going to be. I don't know if I specifically believe that. I want to talk about what is Luka's motivation. So Luka obviously doing what he's doing, the transformation in his body, how much that has to do with the trade that the Mavs made when they made the trade with the Lakers. How much does that have to do with him being in a Laker jersey? How much does that kind of change his psyche? So we'll talk about all that. I know he's in the middle of his Jordan brand tour right now. So what is Luka's motivation? I also want to spend a little time. If we really just kind of think about for a second and we break down what this entire summer has been, most of the summer, the chatter, at least in the first 3-4 weeks of the offseason, was about LeBron. What do we actually think is going to happen? What do we think is going to actually happen? Because you could list out so many different scenarios of predicting LeBron's future. I'll give you guys my take of what I think in regards to that. Nikola Vucevic, there was some stories out there in the last, let's call it 24 hours or so, and I know most of it started with Trevor Lane of Lakers Nation, who, by the way, will be joining the show tomorrow. Most of it started with that and just kind of scenarios out there. Is there a way they can get him? I spent some time yesterday talking about Robert Williams III and the concept of grabbing another big man for the Lakers. So here's another big man. Would it make sense? If it did, now you got to give up some capital, or are you buying out some players and stretching them over the course of 3 years? So Trevor had a few different scenarios out there that we could take a look at. Ayton was the top target for the Los Angeles Lakers. I actually believe this one, but there was a story out there talking about that was the top target among centers. You guys remember when free agency started, a lot of people were like, what the hell? What's going on here? Why is Brook Lopez gone? Clint Capella's gone. We'll talk a little bit about Ayton. And then there's a really good article today on ESPN.com. Dave McMenamin, who's coming on Thursday. So Trevor Lane tomorrow, Dave McMenamin coming on Thursday. And it was about Bronny James, and really kind of opening up the question, can Bronny actually crack the rotation this upcoming year? Got a couple other NBA stories we'll get into. A little bit more of an update on Jonathan Kuminga. Lakers grade on ESPN. They did their grades. They gave a grade that I thought was much more fair than what Yahoo Sports gave. And then we will call it a day. So thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. And we will get things started here. All right, let me take a look at a couple of the comments in here. Morning, Slee, my third cup of coffee. This is my first one. And today I did a little Starbucks action. I don't usually do that. Usually I just make coffee at home here, but we're going to a little Starbucks today. Small little coffee shop. They may make it. They may not. I'm not 100% sure yet. Let's see what we got here. Somebody, Ocean Breeze, is doing his quote. A goal without a timeline is just a wish. A goal without a timeline is just a wish. I like that. Let's see what we got. Here's another one. Obstacles develop you. Opposition distracts you. Like that. Jason, thank you. Appreciate you guys all chiming in. All right, let's get started here. Let's get started here. What's your Starbucks? All right, two things on this. Guy asked me, he's like, how do you spell? He's A-L-A-N. I'm like, sure, that's fine. Go ahead. Go ahead. We don't have to get the spelling right to my Starbucks drink. What do I get? I just get a simple cup of coffee, a little splash of milk in there, and we call it a day. All right, let's get the show started. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys chiming in, and please subscribe to the channel. What is Luka's motivation? So, story came out yesterday, men's health. He does a full piece in the men's health. He looks fantastic. I went through some of these photos with you guys yesterday. Luka looks great. And, I'm one that has been a little bit more critical in regards to Luka. I've kind of had the mentality when I'm talking about Luka. I'm like, why am I going to praise this guy for being in shape? That's his job. He's getting paid literally hundreds of millions of dollars to be in shape. And when you got other players out there that are always in shape and it's never a question, it's kind of like, well, why should I give him credit for being in shape? And LeBron in year 23 looks like he's sketched out of a character out of a Marvel movie or something. Or Kobe back in the day, you never would say, hey, is this guy in shape or is he not in shape? Being in shape is what you should be. However, looking at Luka in those men's health photos, he looked pretty freaking cut. And he almost looked as, if you guys remember him, young Luka. So Luka coming in as a rookie. He basically looked like Luka as a rookie. He looked like Luka at 19 or 20 years old. He looks fantastic. He looks great. So I'm kind of, this morning I'm going over, even last night, I'm kind of thinking about, all right, what are some good angles to take on the show this morning? What are some things that I could talk about in regards to Luka? And I think one of the questions that came up to me is, what has motivated Luka to be or to look like what he looks like right now? Because it's not like Luka hasn't been killing it in the NBA since he's been here. Go look at some of his stats, what he's been able to do before the age of 25. Go look at what he's been in the playoffs. He even performs even better from a playoff perspective. So he takes whatever stats he had in the regular season, and by the time you get to the postseason, he's even better than that. That's not very common with some of these stars or some of these greats or whatever the case is. So Luka, it's not like Luka's not a beast. The man is a beast, and we all know that. But what could possibly motivate him to say to himself, I got to drop 15, 20 pounds? Because he was still killing dudes. I mean, I've seen the quotes out there. There were quotes all the time. Man, I wish I could be 15, 20 pounds overweight and put up a triple-double, a 30, 10, and 10, or whatever the case. This is coming from other players. But I think for Luka, as I kind of sit here now and I try to weigh what is motivating Luka at this moment, it's impossible for me not to think that how he got traded in Dallas, how he was basically exited out the door, the things that were said about Luka once he left, which I think really, really did do some damage in regards to, maybe this guy's not as motivated as we thought he was going to be. Watching him during the season, he doesn't look like he's in shape. Why is he tired in the fourth quarter? How come his numbers are better through the first three quarters than they are in the fourth quarter? I think there were also a lot of Laker fans looking at this. Not that they would ever say, oh, they shouldn't have made the trade. But I think there were a lot of Laker fans saying to themselves, Luka, get in shape. Like this kind of comes with the territory. You should be in shape. I find it very, very difficult to I cannot convince myself that I don't think there's another reason out there that part of his motivation, maybe not all of his motivation, part of his motivation is how he was kicked out the door in Dallas, the things that were said about him, and then the fact that he actually ended up on the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I'm not telling you that if he ended up on a different team, he wouldn't have the same motivation, but obviously there's expectations for the Lakers. If you end up being on this Lakers roster and this Lakers team, and you're considered one of the top 5 players in the NBA today, you're going to immediately start being compared to some of the other greats that are out there. And people are going to say, hey, is Luka going to have a chapter where it includes a championship or championships, as he said it when he put out his post on Instagram and X when new ownership took over? Is he going to become one of those players? I don't think we even have to ask this question. Will he grab the keys and kind of like, hey, I'll drive the franchise? He's been doing that since he was 16, 17 years old when he was playing in Europe or was playing for the Dallas Mavericks and now the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't think anybody's questioning that. But I do really believe that his motivation at this stage of his career, it's not that much different than, you're in a relationship and your girl dumps you or your man dumps you or something like that. And all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, I got to be a better version of myself. And it really has nothing to even do with that person, but that person in a way motivates you to be a better person because they didn't think you were good enough. It's kind of how I feel like with Luka. So I see a lot of these photos. I see a lot of what he's been able to do. Obviously, he's on his Jordan tour right now. Yesterday, he was at Yankee Stadium taking some photos with Aaron Judge. I think they're both Jordan brand. So obviously, there's a cross promotion there. He's going to end up eventually in Chicago. And then by the time we roll to August 2nd, he's going to be here in Los Angeles, and that's going to be the first day. I think he gets here August 1st, either 1st or 3rd. I can't remember which day it is. But he's going to be in a position to potentially sign that long-term deal with the Lakers and then go from there. So Luka's motivation, I'll read some of your comments on what you believe is Luka's motivation just based off of what we saw over this last, what do you want to call it? Lakers were eliminated before May 1st, they were eliminated. So you got May, you got June, and you got July. In about a 3-month span, the guy looks like he's dropped some serious weight, and he looks highly, highly motivated for this upcoming season. Now, he's also going to be part of Eurobasket. So he's going to be representing his country, which has just some of the best players in the world. Obviously, some of the best players in the world are in Europe or from Europe. So that I think adds a little bit to the piece of it. But I think that trade was the turning point in his career. And then we'll see how much the Lakers are able to benefit off of it. But clearly, he's got some extra motivation that I'm not sure if he had in the past. Let's see what we got here. I think just being with the Lakers now is part of the change. This is where legends are made. He wants that. Yeah, and it's also expected. It's kind of crazy. Think about, this is how spoiled Laker fans are. This is the truth. And I'm not even saying this as a bad thing. I'm just saying it more as a fact, or at least my observation. How many teams do you know would get Luka traded to their team, fall on their lap, top 5 player in the league? I think this year is going to be a top 3 player in the league. And look at all the criticism that went towards Luka during the season. That's how spoiled Laker fans are. There was this like appreciation for the first 2 weeks that, oh my gosh, I can't believe Luka's a Laker. I'm so excited. This is going to turn the chapter in this. And then 2 weeks after that, it was like, hey, Luka, yeah, this isn't good enough. Yeah, Luka, I don't know. I feel like you're forcing shots. Luka, I don't know. Why are you tired in the fourth quarter? I do think there is a part of this that is him coming to the Lakers, and there's different expectations when you come to the Lakers, and then you start looking up in the rafters and you're like, Jesus, look at all these Hall of Famers, look at all the trophies, the championships, all that stuff. But I think there's a piece of it as well where Laker fans, it didn't take very long for them to say, this is awesome. We got Luka. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, Luka, this, you got to figure some stuff out here. This isn't going to work. He hates JJ for calling him out the press. It's funny. That was an interesting comment. And everybody ran with that. I was at that presser. This is the exit interview that the Lakers had. And JJ basically says that, I think the exact quote was, they got to get into our guys got to get into championship shape. And even Michael Thompson was talking about this when he was on Friday. He's like, well, who do you think they were talking about? I don't think they were talking about Jordan Goodwin. I don't think they were talking about Austin Reeves. He was talking about Luka. I don't think, how he feels about that, I don't know. But I'll tell you what JJ Redick said. He said the truth. I think that part of it is 100%. I think he definitely said the truth. Luka going for MVP in 2025. Luka wins MVP and gets swept in the first round. Damn. Let's get some more in here. Luka grabbed the keys to the Lakers, told LeBron to go clean the windshield. Well, I think there is definitely that portion's not going to happen. I think the piece of I think what's unique about the Lakers situation, and I think this also kind of has something to do with how LeBron has acted in the offseason. I think what's unique about the situation is LeBron went from playing with a guy in Anthony Davis, who was his buddy, who was represented by the same, agent, obviously, Rich Paul. There was a lot of connections between Anthony Davis and LeBron. LeBron had a big influence in making that trade happen and bringing AD to the Lakers. And there was never this, Anthony Davis just never had this personality of, hey, this is my team, this is my squad, any of that stuff. I think Luka has a completely different personality. I think Luka's personality is like, listen, I respect you. You've been one of the greatest to ever play the game. We've watched you for 22 years, going on your 23rd year, all that stuff. This is my squad. And the way the Lakers are treating it is, this is Luka's squad. Now, I think they're both better off finding a way to work together, right? Like, at least for this upcoming season, LeBron's here. He's not going anywhere. For all the reports out there and for all the different angles that people have taken on LeBron, at the end of the day, I think most people feel like LeBron's going to be here. But with all that being said, the situation's wildly different because Luka's not one of those players that's going to kick back and say, you know what, why don't you drive? You know what? No, let me take a back seat. That's just not in his DNA. That's not in his personality. And at this stage of LeBron's career, that shouldn't be the case. Fans have higher expectations of their teams than they do of themselves. Yeah, I mean, listen, if there's one thing that's fair to say, I think the fair thing to say is people are passionate about their teams. They're definitely passionate about their teams. The Lakers empowered Luka 100%. And it's, it's just that's kind of comes with the territory. I think that they're thinking for the future, and that's certainly part of the future. Okay. I wanted to definitely wanted to get that piece out of just what I thought, from a Luka motivational standpoint. That's one of the things I think that stands out to me most. What he's been able to do so far this summer, a lot of it does have to do with some of his motivation. And you cannot tell me that a lot of that does not have a lot to do with the fact that he did get traded from Dallas. He ends up with the Lakers, and now he's got a lot to prove for himself. Okay, let's keep moving here. Got a couple other things I want to hit on here before we get into some trade rumors or some other things that could be going on around the league. So last couple of days, we saw a few things. All right, we saw the Nikola Vucevic, his agent with LeBron, Maverick Carter. What did they tease? The quote was big plans. And, people can take what they want with that. What does that mean? Does it mean LeBron's going to go play for the Nuggets? Does it mean Jokic is going to demand a trade of the Lakers? I don't know what the hell it means. Maybe it means big plans, that they got some business venture going on between the three of them. But it says the summer of 2025 is the perfect time to make big plans for the fall of 2026. I don't know what it means. I think this is just another one of those moments where something is being laid out there. It has an association with LeBron, and then everybody just kind of runs with their assumption. That's kind of been the entire summer so far with LeBron. If I walk everybody through the different things that we've talked about in regards to LeBron so far this summer, I've heard people talk about that this could be his final year, and there could potentially be an announcement made in August or before next season starts that this will be LeBron's final year. We've read these, just some of the different reports out there. I was reading for you guys yesterday, Mark Stein, who did a really, really good article, really good piece over the weekend. And Mark Stein thinks he's going to play 24 seasons. So not just this upcoming season, another year after that. And then he also mentioned in the article, well, if he's going to go 24, he might as well just go 25 and call it a quarter century. Okay. We've heard that as a possibility. We've heard that he may demand a trade. We've heard that maybe he gets bought out. I don't really see how that makes any sense. We've heard that maybe we'll have to wait till the NBA trade deadline and something's going to happen. We've heard that he'll walk away after this season, or the Lakers will let him walk away. We've heard 15 different scenarios in regards to what actually LeBron James, or we don't know what LeBron James is going to do, but we've heard all these different scenarios that come out. And I think, listen, Bron and Rich Paul, I don't know how much these guys have helped the situation, but it could be very strategic. This is what they do. They dominate the storylines. They try to create the narrative. Maybe they're just showing to everybody too that LeBron still got the power, same power that he had, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago. He still has that power today. I mean, he's certainly lost that power just by not having the, certainly not by having the option for next year, and this could potentially be the final year of his contract. I think when the dust settles, if we actually had to ask ourselves, what do we think LeBron will do when the dust settles? I think he actually does want to retire a Laker. I think that as much noise as there is out there, I think his preference would be to retire a Laker. I think the most likely scenario is he ends up playing out this year. I don't know if he'll play another season after that, but do you really think LeBron right now, who I think it's been well reported, what is it? He's got, is it in Beverly Hills that he's building this mega mansion out there? You really think LeBron right now wants to pick up and leave and go to a random city? He wants to go to Denver, or he wants to go to Dallas, or he wants to go to Miami, or he wants to go to Cleveland, or he wants to go to the Bay. Doesn't it feel like, of all the scenarios that have been played out there and everything that people have talked about, doesn't it seem like the most likely scenario with LeBron James is that he just closes out the rest of his career with the Lakers? Now, he wants to compete for a chip, so how the Lakers obviously get there, we'll see. But if you just take every single storyline that we've seen so far this year or so far this summer with LeBron, there's 15 different storylines. And, is that strategic? Do they want you all just kind of thinking you have no idea where this thing is going to go? Or is there a little bit that I think comes with it as well, where there's some truth to it? I honestly don't have an answer for you, but I do feel like by the time the dust settles, that's going to be the case. I just don't think LeBron wants to leave LA. I don't. Now, if he's forced to, or he has to, or it's all under Laker terms, that's going to be a little bit different. But I think this might be one of the last few stories we have on LeBron, the one that we saw yesterday. I saw something, I think this morning, what was it, like 4:30 in the morning? This guy was already on his way to the gym. One thing we're never saying about LeBron is the guy in shape. Is he ready? Whatever the case is. But it was something, the post had something to do with year 23, and it was like literally it was before 5 a.m. in the morning. So obviously he's getting ready to go back to work. I think that should be, at least for now, a bow in some of these LeBron James stories in the offseason. I feel like the dust is kind of settled on that stuff, and now more of the conversation is going to be about what the actual season is going to look like. Who knows? Once I say that, there's probably going to be 2-3 stories that are just completely on Bron as well. All right, let me got a couple things I want to do here real quick before we get to a DeAndre Ayton story that I have. Before I do, quick shout out, Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Can I get that up there? There it is. Great sweater, by the way. Spent some time yesterday with Brad Wallace, spent some time at the firm. I've mentioned to you guys before. This is a partner that's very important to the channel. What they do on a day-to-day basis, they are injury attorneys, serious injury, wrongful death case. Their specialty is trying to help people that need help. It's interesting having that conversation with him. And by the way, I will say this, it's great to have a partner that really is a proponent of the channel, where the show is going. He's very, very happy with his involvement in the channel. So I appreciate all of you guys for kind of accepting some of the partners here as I do it. I don't know how much you guys understand just how important it is to have partnerships for a channel, for the growth of the channel, to make this a legitimate business. But he had a lot of compliments to the channel, to the listeners, the comments that people have on here. So shout out to everybody here that's involved, because I do feel like we're all kind of working together on this. So the vision of the channel going as planned, and he's a perfect example, somebody that's really happy with the direction of the channel. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. That's the website that you can go to. What are you going to that website for? You can get a free consultation. You want to get a professional's opinion on your situation or your case, please go to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. Okay, let's get back to some of the topics here. And there's some comments here that I definitely want to go. He will not retire. He's absolutely going to play one more year wherever Bryce gets drafted. Yeah, that's it's, if that's something that happens, what would be the Lakers' appetite for that? You already drafted Bronny, number 55 pick. Obviously a lot of people, well, he got drafted because he's LeBron's son. Do people really want, even more related to that? I don't know about that one. I mean, really, are you going to be asking is he going to be asking his son, his second son, hey, can I also bring Bryce on here? That'd be a little bit wild. I'm not sure the appetite the Lakers would have for that. Maybe I'm completely wrong. The appetite Laker fans would have for that. It's all smoke. LBJ does not want to leave LA. He has movies here to develop, family, friends. That's it. He is annoyed at the power. Jonathan, that might be the most be the most accurate comment in regards to LeBron. He wanted to let everybody know that he wasn't happy that he was losing some of that power. But here's the reality. When the dust settled, I said this about the Lakers. I thought the front office kind of handled this as good as you could handle it. At the end of the day, what did the front office do? They did nothing. They didn't overreact. They didn't come out and have to put out a statement and reacting to what Rich Paul said or reacting to what LeBron, nothing. They just kind of left it as is. I'm sure they had a lot of behind the scenes conversations. This is where we are. This is where we're going. Bron, understand that you're going to be in your 8th year as a Los Angeles Laker. This is the longest he's ever spent with one team at a time. Lakers have done their part. I mean, I think we could all agree with that. Okay, let's get some more comments in here. Luka hanging out with Aaron Judge. Saw that. When is Brad coming to the show to talk some Lakers? It's a good question right there. We'll get him back on. Once I get back into that studio, we'll do it again. Let's see here. Bryce is going to be drafted by the Lakers. Okay, that's enough then. If we're in the Bryce is going to be drafted by the Lakers business, then it's time for me to keep him moving here. Could happen. I don't know. I have a difficult time thinking that that's going to happen. Did you guys see this story? And I think I mentioned to everybody, this has a little bit to do. Trevor Lane, who does obviously a great job, Lakers Nation, was doing one of his YouTube shows and kind of brought up a conversation when he was doing his Lakers Nation podcast. Brought up a conversation I think is going to a little interesting. And I think this kind of drives back to what happened yesterday with my chat. Some time talking about Robert Williams and should the Lakers go make a run for him? Should they make a play for him? There was some chatter that he could potentially be available. If he is available, what kind of trade package would the Lakers give to Portland to go try to grab him? They're probably going to ask for Dalton Connect. They're going to probably ask for some young pieces, an expiring contract. You got to ask for an expiring contract to make the deal work, and maybe a second rounder or something along those lines. But the idea and the concept of Robert Williams III, I think, was more importantly the conversation. The conversation had more to do with, can the Lakers use another center? Can they use another big? Okay, we know they needed a center, period. They went out and got DeAndre Ayton. They brought back Jackson Hayes. So now technically you have two centers. But if you look at the structure of the NBA today, the bigs are making a little bit of a return. Now, maybe they're being used a little bit different. It's not back to the basket and just throw the ball. Somebody posts up and they're shooting 15-footers all night. Okay, it's not Patrick Ewing or Hakeem Olajuwon or anything like that. The way bigs are being used today is different. But the conversation for the Lakers was, do you think you need to go get another big? I like the idea and I like the concept. Now, what do you give up? Robert Williams III, we know his injury history. The guy's only played 61 games in the last 3 seasons. So I think you have some hesitation there. But the one thing that I noticed, and I think it continues to be a conversation, and this is going to tie us into Nikola Vucevic of the Chicago Bulls, the idea of going to go get another big, maybe that is some interest in the Lakers. I mean, I think right now, if you ask me, what do they need? Would you rather have another big or would you rather have Gabe Vincent? Would you rather have another big or would you rather have Dalton Connect? I know there's some trade conversations out there about Maxi Kleber, so the question is going to be his health. So this was a conversation that Trevor was having, and I'm going to read something from him here and a scenario to try to get Nikola Vucevic, who, by the way, listen, he's 34 years old. I think he's 35 by the time next season starts. He's got a birthday in late October, so keep that in mind. I know we're not all watching Chicago Bulls games, but the guy does put up numbers. So his stats are still there. Now, I know sometimes it depends. I think stats can be a little bit deceiving, but this man's still putting up 18 points and 10 rebounds a game, plus 3.5 assists. He shoots 40% from the three-point line. So it's not like he can't play. The dude can play. the question is going to be, is that the style of player that you want? Is that a player that you want to target? At that age, obviously you're only going to have him for a year. Do you want him at that age? Do you want that style of player? And is this somebody that you're willing to give up some draft assets, or not even draft assets? Is this somebody you're willing to give up assets for in a 1-year rental, I guess you can call him? So let me read here what Trevor Lane said. By the way, Trevor Lane coming on tomorrow. He'll be on tomorrow. This is what he said. Let's say they really don't want to give up future second round in order just to jettison some salary. One option could be to waive and stretch the salary of Gabe Vincent or Maxi Kleber. You can do that with either guy. So the question becomes, would that be the preferred path rather than give up the second round pick, have $3.6 million in dead money sitting on your books? So one way for the Lakers to get him, one of the ideas, one of the concepts was, by the way, they don't have a roster spot available. So this is kind of one of the main reasons of trying to get Vucevic. One of the main reasons he gets bought out. Now you're trying to figure out, from a asset perspective, and also from a perspective of freeing up a roster spot. That's kind of what Trevor Lane is talking about. He's bringing up different ways, I guess you can call it different, trying to be creative and finding a way to do so. I would say this. The whole dead money sitting on the books, I'm not a fan of at all. I think what the Milwaukee Bucks did with Damian Lillard to have that much dead money on their books, that sounds like that's going to hurt them down the road. I think they're like 22 million, 19 to 20 million, 19 to 22 million. They're going to have dead money for the next 5 years. Bradley Beal, dead money for Phoenix. I don't think that's a good strategy. I think there's a little bit of a desperation play for both of those franchises. I think in regards to the Lakers, 3.6 is not a lot, but I don't want dead money on the books. It just does not sound like, it's almost like you're grabbing a credit card. And the problem is, it's not like you have endless amount of money that you can spend. No, that sits on your books. If you got $3.6 million in dead money for 3 years, I mean, that's $3.6 million every single year for the next 3 years that you just can't spend. It's gone. It's dead. I'd rather give up a second rounder and this is under the assumption that you think Vucevic is the right fit. You think he's the right player. You think he could help the Lakers this year, that you feel like that would be the second big that you go to, obviously, on the Lakers team. If you start Ayton and then you have him, maybe there's times they play together because Vucevic can stretch the floor a little bit. Ayton can as well, but not as much as Vucevic can. I think that the questions that are being thrown out there is, if he's the right player, if you think he's the right fit, if you think he would be a good addition to the Lakers, and you got to be creative. I'm rather giving up a second rounder than dead money. I'm just not a fan of the strategy of using dead money, and I think most teams who use it is a little bit more in desperation mode. All right, let's see what we got here. The nice idea with Vooch is always you run two big lineups with a lob threat in Jackson at the 4. You would have that. He's a legit, listen, 40% 3-point shooter is especially for a big, that's a really, really nice average to have. All right, let me get a couple more in this year. Isn't Bronny being looked at as an asset now? So why wouldn't Bryce be a good thing? Maybe draft Luka's dad. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Watch. All right, a lot of people still on the Bryce topic. We're not doing the Bryce. Can't do it. I can't do it. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think with Vucevic, I'm going to go back to the same thing that I was saying a little bit earlier. At the end of the day, I think the thing that makes most sense to me is, can the Lakers use another big? And I think the answer to that is yes. I do think they can use another big. So I think when the dust settles, you're thinking about from a big perspective, I would say yes. I do think the Lakers can use another big, whether that's a Robert Williams, whether that's a Vucevic, whatever that is. Yes, I do think the Lakers can use another big. I saw this article. DeAndre Ayton was Lakers' top target among centers. It's funny. This is on Mark Stein. Mark Stein had put this out there. Every time I see this kind of stuff, every time, I'm like, all right, I don't believe it. I don't believe it because, they want to make it look like our first call was to you. Who knows? Third call, fifth call, I don't know what it is. This one I actually believe. Here's what Mark Stein put in his report. He said, I believe that DeAndre Ayton was the Lakers' top target among centers from the first minute of free agency. I know it might have looked to some like the Lakers lost out to the Clippers on Brook Lopez, pivoted to Ayton, but that's not how it went down. Ayton and the Trailblazers came to terms on a buyout agreement on the day before free agency officially began, and the 7-foot Bohemian, I think that's how I pronounce that, was instantly regarded by numerous interested teams as a virtual lock to land with the Lakers. It was the Lakers' first choice. It was probably a really wise choice, to be honest with you. I do remember when free agency was about to start, there's a lot of people that was frustrated. It's like, I can't believe we lost Brook Lopez. I can't believe we didn't get Clint Capella. I can't believe this big already signed, that big already signed. Didn't it feel like there was just the ripple effect of what was going to eventually happen with the Lakers? It kind of felt like we already knew it was going to be DeAndre, and almost like we already know Luka's going to sign an extension with the Lakers. So I wasn't too concerned about it. I do think of all the options that the Lakers had from a big perspective, that's the one that made the most sense. I mean, you grab a 26-year-old for all the reasons that we've talked about. I don't need to kind of lay into all the reasons again, but the main reasons are he's 26 years old. He's got an expiring contract. He's trying to prove himself. He just got bought out. You're paying pennies to the dollar. I think there were a lot of teams that would have took a chance on DeAndre, and the Lakers were obviously fortunate enough to get him for a number of different reasons. Probably some of those reasons were he wants to play with Luka. He gets the visibility. He gets the spotlight, and he'll continue to get that with the Lakers for at least a year until, obviously he figures out what to do from there. All right, let's take a look at a few comments here. Keep going. The pressure to get Claxton is off, so it might be the perfect time to trade for him for a lower price. It's been a weird offseason, to be honest with you. I think the fact that nobody had money, literally nobody had money. There's a lot of squads that just did not have, they just didn't have cap space. So now you got all these restricted free agents as well. I saw a story out there. One of the reasons why, I think it's Rich Paul that represents Brandon Ingram. Is it Rich Paul I think it's Rich Paul that represents Brandon Ingram. One of the reasons why they got him traded to Toronto and got the extension was because they knew there was going to be no money in free agency. So it was kind of a smart strategic play to say, all right, let's find a different way to get our money, our guy, our money. And that was one way to do so. But the offseason, I think there was a lot of chatter of like, oh my gosh, watch out. Everybody's going to get moved. Don't get me wrong. There were moves. Rockets traded for Kevin Durant, Desmond Main got traded. There were some moves. I'm not saying that there weren't some moves. Bradley Beal, the buyout, all that stuff. You can, we could look at some different things, but ultimately, a lot of these teams they got one hand tied behind their back. The restricted free agents, Josh Giddey, Cam Thomas, Jonathan Kuminga, all these guys kind of are completely stuck. And whether they're going to find a way to get out of the position they're in, I don't know. I think all the leverage is with the players, but the CBA, whether you like the collective bargaining agreement, you like the way it's structured today, I don't mind it. I think it is interesting. I think it is adding a little bit more of an NFL model where it's like, hey, any team's got a shot to win. I think that's healthy for the league. I think that's good for the league, but there's some effects of it that you don't really realize until you get a couple years in, and we're a couple years in. I think these are some of the effects. You're talking about the pressure off Claxton, perfect timing to go get him. Claxton's name's been thrown out for it seems like a couple months now, and I think probably the most likely scenario is he probably doesn't move. Okay, let's take a look at some more here. Let's see. So hard to believe LeBron is going to retire. A lot of people don't believe it. A lot of people think that he's going to stick around. So I don't know. I mean, obviously he's playing at least one more year. The question is going to be if he plays any more after that. Maybe, but as a backup, Vucevic defense is not as bad as many other backups. I like his game. I think he's got tremendous game, but he's going to be 35, so something to keep in mind. Let's see. Yeah, the problem is what you're giving up. Claxton, you're going to give up a lot more for than I think you'd be giving up for Robert Williams III. Robert Williams III is a little bit of just like you're taking a low risk depending on what you give back. And the idea and the concept is, all right, 1 year, see what he can do. And if he's healthy, I think if he's healthy, he's actually still an asset. Still an asset. The CBA sucks. CJ McCollum got cooked by the owners. All right. Got a few more there. Offseason has been nothing but trash, let's be honest. You know what's funny is there were a lot of stories. I mean, as somebody, this is my first time doing an offseason, obviously, for the channel. I didn't start going Monday through Friday on the channel until October 1st, right? Or October 2nd. I think Lakers had their media day on October 1st. So I think I started October 2nd. It was a Tuesday. So I'm still in my first cycle of like trying to figure out, all right, well, what happens in May? What's the channel look like when the Lakers are eliminated? What's the channel look like through the finals, the draft, free agency? And here we are now, almost in August. Gotta be honest with you, there's still been a lot of stories. Now, maybe the stories there's been a lot of topics, not necessarily action, right? It's like, can this player come? And everybody's got interest in it. Or maybe Marcus Smart comes in the buyout and there's a big push of people that want the content. But, you know, I know you're saying that you think the summer hasn't been that good. To be honest with you, maybe this is more from like a content creator perspective. I think the topics have actually been pretty good. Now, how much longer are they going to go? I listen, if you told me by August 15th, you know, most of that stuff, you got Eurobasket. I don't know how much that's going to be able to help. We'll see. But I actually think that from an offseason perspective, the topics have been good. The action has been limited, if that makes a little bit of sense there. All right, I got to give a shout out here. Thank you to another one of our partners, Lexus Santa Monica. 2025 all-electric Lexus RZ, right now available at LexusSantaMonica.com. If you're in the market for a car, maybe you're in a lease, you've been a part of a lease here for a couple of years, and you're like, all right, you know what, I need to get out of this lease. Maybe it's time to just buy a new car. You're ready to do it. The reason why I really, really recommend Lexus for a couple of reasons. I know people are going to look, okay, you're going to look at Lexus, a couple of things immediately come out to mind. You're like, wow, that's a high-end vehicle. It's a luxury car. You're right. Absolutely it is. They are beautiful, beautiful cars. And certainly, you know, just some of the nicest high-end cars out there. But I also want you to understand something about Lexus. They're wildly reliable. They're wildly dependable. I'm closing in on 180,000 miles on my car. I think something that you got to understand with Lexus is they last. If you're in the market for a car, I want to introduce you to one of the owners and the GM over at Lexus Santa Monica. Matt Unger, his email address, MatthewUnger@LACarguy.com. Just send him an email. Tell him, hey, I listened to the show. Alan told me that if I'm ever in the market for a car, to come to you. And I feel very, very confident he'll be able to help you, steer you in the right direction. You're talking with the top of the top. So obviously, from his perspective, he can make things happen. If you're in the market for a car, LexusSantaMonica.com or send an email to MatthewUnger@LACarguy.com, and I know he'll be able to help. So shout out to him. Shout out to their partnership on the channel as well. Look at us. Moving in, got our partnerships, got our topics, we got our people. Like where we're going here. All right, let's get some more comments in here, and then I'm going to hit on Bronny for a second. There was a good article on Bronny that came out this morning on ESPN. Laker fans want the impossible. Okay, let's get this one. I disagree. Parity is good for the league. This is a good conversation because I think a lot of people actually do disagree with me on this one. The league was at its most popular when there were dynasties. 80s Lakers, 90s or 80s Lakers and Celtics, 90s Lakers, Bulls, Heels, Warriors. Nobody wants to see the Pacers. Listen, I don't disagree that from just a pure viewership perspective, you want villains. You want the big bad logo that everybody knows. You want David versus Goliath, or you want Goliath versus Goliath. You know, you want the marquee matchups. I don't disagree that there isn't more allure when it comes to it. But when I say the health of the league, this is what I mean. You want cities that when October 1st rolls around, they feel like they got a shot. And the more cities that you feel like have a shot, I do think means something. And let me I think the model in the NFL, and listen, I know the NFL is king, so I'm not trying to compare the NFL to the NBA, but you tell me what's better. Is it better to just have, hey, Lakers are playing the Warriors, we're all going to watch for the league? Or is it better when the Cincinnati Bengals are taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers on a Thursday night and all of us are watching? Which one's healthier for the league? Because what the NFL has been able to do is they've been able to say, it doesn't matter the market. Most of the time, it doesn't matter the team. Sometimes it doesn't even matter what the record is. If you put an NFL game on, I'm going to watch and you're going to watch. That to me is healthier for the league. They're not just as dependent on a couple of markets or a couple of teams or a couple of franchises. I think that's the point that I'm trying to make. Now, listen, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, they're in it all the time, but you're also watching the Buffalo Bills. You're also watching the Baltimore Ravens. You're also watching the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, you go down the list. You're watching at least 15 teams in the NFL. I don't think you're doing that with the NBA. So, I don't disagree. Yes, dynasties are dynasties, the Bulls, the this, the that. I completely understand where you're coming from. But I think if you're talking about the totality of the league, the NFL has trained us. Doesn't matter who's playing, doesn't matter what time, and it doesn't matter what day. You put an NFL game on, we're going to watch. Now, they only have 20 games, right? So that part is different as well. I think there's a little exhaustion from MLB games or NBA games because there's a lot more. But I still think from a totality perspective, parity would be healthier for the league. I know you said nobody wants to see the Pacers, and maybe the ratings prove that, but I thought the Pacers were one of the cooler stories that we've watched all year, and they were one Tyrese Halliburton injury away from potentially winning the whole thing. And I think people would say that they don't think – I think people would say that they don't want to watch – you know who you didn't put on here? The San Antonio Spurs. The Oklahoma City Thunder could potentially be a dynasty. If they're a dynasty, is it just an automatic that everybody's going to watch? I don't think it is. You know, they're not the most exciting team that's out there. All right, let's see what we got here. It's not even big and small market is bad for the league. When teams get penalized for trying to win, like Boston having to blow it up to get under the apron is bad for the league, and I hate them. Well, here's I would tell you something that's even worse than that. You know who's going to probably have to blow it up for doing it the right way? OKC. What are the Thunder going to do a year from now? They're going to have to make some major, major changes because of that. I think if you can add one wrinkle into the CBA that I think would be smart and beneficial, I think the one thing that I would say in regards to the NBA CBA is if you draft your own players, they shouldn't add. The dollars shouldn't be the same. They shouldn't equate to the same dollars on your overall salary cap. So that's the one thing that I would say. If I draft a player and I crop that player and he becomes a star and I have to pay him $200 million, don't penalize me for drafting and developing that player. So that's the only thing that I would say in regards to that. All right, let's get a couple more of these in here. You know, sometimes this is one of my favorite things to do when I'm doing a show is when I don't, this kind of a topic that came up organically and it kind of came up from you guys. I do think that's sometimes we get really, really good topics from doing that. So I appreciate you chiming in on that. Let's see what we got here. I'm so out of touch with the NFL. NFL is still king. I mean, like there is just kind of no way around that, to be honest with you. Let's see. I read that one. Not even big, small. Some people going at Austin Reeves. NFL fans are a dying generation of fans. College attendance is abysmal. It's not a global sport either. Basketball has way more potential. I don't disagree with the international piece that the NBA has. And I don't know if you guys have looked. They're, trying to figure out a way to – I was listening to Bill Simmons and Zach Lowe. It was on Bill Simmons' podcast. Zach Lowe came in, and he was talking about how Adam Silver kept talking about this European league. They're going to be doing something in Europe. And you're right, from a global perspective, the game is, as big as it gets from a global perspective. I mean, the potential that it has from a global perspective is, I think at the time, much higher than what the NFL's perspective or opportunity is globally. But we'll see. I mean, we've seen the NFL really trying to put their footprint in globally much more over the years. Okay, I don't know if you guys saw this story. Let's talk a little bit about it. There's a good story inside on ESPN, Dave McMenamin, inside Bronny James' year 2 development with the Lakers. And it kind of goes through his time in the Summer League. And it goes through his second, what do you want to call this? Second opportunity in the Summer League. So now there's a little bit less of a surprise. You guys remember last year when he was drafted, it was all about, I can't believe he got drafted, number 55 pick. How the hell the Lakers used their draft pick on this? And other people were like, hey, this is awesome. This is cool. Bronny gets to play with his dad. And it's the first time a father-son duo in the NBA. I'm going to read a couple quotes here, and then I want to throw a question out to some Laker fans out there. This is what he said. He said, my head is all over the place. There's so much going on in Vegas. I personally don't like the Summer League at all. I like the competition in the games, but I don't like coming to Vegas and being in Vegas. After this, I'm just doing nothing. Bronny goes on to say, I'm going to read a couple of things that he said here, and then we'll ask the question of if he's got a shot at a part of this rotation this summer, or I'm sorry, this upcoming season. Does he have any chance of actually potentially making noise this upcoming season? So let me read off here. I just think that if you know me, I don't really like the spotlight in the big moments. I mean, it was a great experience to be a part of because it was the first son-father duo, but I'm a chill guy. I don't like all of that. Probably he's talking about the attention. It comes with it, but yeah, I don't really like to go back. I mean, I'll watch my good performances where I have some minutes under my belt, but I'm not going to go and watch that. He's talking a little bit about some of his appearances, his first appearance with his dad and everything else when he started. I've always said this, and it seems like Bronny's personality. Look, it's Bronny's not looking for attention. He's just not. That's my interpretation. That's my that's kind of how I viewed Bronny so far in his first year with the Lakers. Kind of probably would prefer to stay under the radar. I think what would be interesting is what would happen if LeBron decided to retire. Bronny stay on the Lakers? Go somewhere else? Like what happens to that situation? I've said that, probably for him, the best thing that could have happened to Bronny for his NBA career is if he ended up in another team and just kind of worked through the G League and slowly but surely tried to work his way up into the NBA and then try to make a name for himself in his own way. I mean, I think it doesn't help that you're with a Laker brand. You got the spotlight. It's the LA market. And, oh, yeah, your dad is LeBron James. But there were some questions out there, and I think, in Summer League, this is a good example of it. Will he get chances this upcoming season to have any shot at all of cracking the rotation and being a guy that people actually look at and say, all right, you know what, we're bringing him in. He could be a specialist on the defensive side. He comes in, gives you 10 minutes a game, picks up full court, really is, doesn't see the light of the day when it comes to being an offensive player. It's just all about him being a defensive player. I'm trying to think how this guy would crack the rotation. This is how he'd have to try to crack the rotation. Just let me list off all the guys that, we know are going to get the playing time. And then if there's any opportunity for Bronny James, you have, if I'm just kind of going off of who I think is going to start and everything else, obviously you got Ayton, you got LeBron, you got Austin Reeves, you got Luka, you got Marcus Smart, you got Rui Hachimura, you got Jake LaRavia, who they got. Jackson Hayes is going to have some spot minutes based on what he does. If Gabe Vincent's still on the Lakers, he's going to get more playing time, of course. And then maybe you got to, look at Maxi Kleber. You got your young rook as well, Thero, who's going to be on the Lakers as well. Does he find a way to get any opportunities or any chances of being an impact this upcoming year? It's going to be tough. I mean, it ain't going to be easy. I will say the only way he's probably going to get his opportunities, if it's literally, he just got to be one of the best guys in shape. He's got to be one of the guys that's willing to, whatever it takes to be on the floor and have some type of an effect on the team. It's going to have to come on the defensive side as well. But I thought the piece was good, that Dave McMenamin put out there. But more than anything else, I just kind of looked at it more as, will he get opportunities? Is there a chance for him to crack the rotation? Is he going to spend most of his time in the G League again? Probably still at least another year of development away from potentially getting some opportunities in the NBA. That's how I look at it. I think it's going to be hard for him to crack the rotation. All right, let's see what we got here. Being a 3-and-D is his only chance. Yeah, problem is he's too small to be a 3, right? I think he's 6'3", maybe 6'2", something along those lines. So maybe 6'3". Seriously, is Bronny a rotational player this season? Depending on how training camp goes, he could, but has to show up. Maybe the best thing for Bronny is for him to figure out what's best for Bronny. It's his life to live. Take guts when your dad is the GOAT. Yeah, listen, obviously that has not been the case up to this point. Up to this point, he's kind of just going with the flow of what his dad is kind of built for him. But I want to see the guy do well. I really do. I don't have a problem with Bronny. I think I had a problem more with the concept of him coming to the Lakers and kind of forcing the Lakers to pick with a number 55 pick. But actually seeing Bronny and listening to him or getting a chance to be around him, you're at some of these interviews or whatever the case is, he's an easy guy to like. Very, very chill. Not one of those, I think, that's walking into a situation saying, who my dad is? That's definitely not his case. Guy, he grinds. He rolls up his sleeves and he grinds. Okay, let me read a couple more of these, and then I got a couple things real quick on the NBA, and then we'll call it a day. I did mention I'm going to need to run out of here at 9. I did say yesterday that I was going to post something for members. I'm going to end up doing it today. I took a video that I want to post, and it's a really, really cool Kobe Bryant piece from the Wallace firm. He's got all this memorabilia that's there. And Brad Wallace is kind of talking about the story behind how he got it, how unique the piece is. So I'm going to put that up. If you're a member, I'll get that up there a little bit later today. So I'll get that up there. All right. Bronny, perfect player archetype. Jrue Holiday still is, a phenomenal player and a beast. So I'm not sure if he's going to have. That's a very, very, very high comp to have in regards to that. A lot of people getting hitting on Austin Reeves. Very humble. That's for Bronny James. Okay, one or two quick NBA notes here that I'm going to hit on. Warriors' best offer to Jonathan Kuminga, just 2 years, $40 million. So word is that the Warriors' best offer, this is from Mark Stein, to Jonathan Kuminga, have topped out in the 2-year, $40 million range. If he was an unrestricted free agent right now and there were teams that had money, he's going to get probably $25 to $30 million a year. I think that's what Jonathan Kuminga would get. He's only 22 years old. Kuminga's camp has continued to seek out sign and trade opportunities, with Sacramento and Phoenix still regarded as the most determined suitors, but Golden State is said to want a first-round pick in any sign and trade deal. The Suns do not have an available first-round pick to offer. So the latest on Jonathan Kuminga and his market, I think Jonathan Kuminga is trying to give every indication to the Golden State Warriors that he wants out. I think the Warriors are trying to say, okay, well, we may accommodate, but we're going to need some assets in return. And oh, by the way, we have all the leverage here. So that's something to keep in mind as the Jonathan Kuminga thing still continues. Here we are, almost one full month into free agency, and you still got a lot of players, a lot of good players that don't have their future completely settled, Giddey being one of them, and obviously Jonathan Kuminga being the other player. The only other player that I saw here that I'm going to mention real quick, Jake Fisher put this out there on the Stein report as well. Sources tell Jake Fisher that the Nets offer to date have not exceeded 2-year proposals featuring an annual average value in the range of $14.1 million, non-taxpayer, mid-level exception. That's for Cam Thomas. So that's the other player that's one of the restricted free agents that's kind of dealing with the same thing. Again, That's in regards specifically to Cam Thomas. So Cam Thomas, Jonathan Kuminga, still no news there. It gives you an idea what the dollars are that those two players are looking at. All right, we got see here. We got another comment or two, and then we're gonna get out of here. Let's to new comments. Jonathan worth more than that. Apparently, not according to the Golden State Warriors. All right, my people, just give you guys a quick idea. Tomorrow, Trevor Lane at 8:15. Trevor Lane's going to join the show. And then on Thursday, Dave McMenamin at 8:15. So a couple good shows are really coming up. Two guests that I love having on. I'm looking forward to having on the next couple of days. So it gives you a little bit of an outlook for Wednesday and for Thursday. Thank you for being a part of the show today. Please subscribe to the channel. So thank you very much for hanging out. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.